I hope everyone is having an excellent week. I've been watching a lot of Mr. Rogers with my 3-year-old. Who knows if that'll seep over into how I instruct? But it's been a very, very refreshing thing recently watching Mr. Rogers, getting to talk about little things. It's very meditative. I really enjoy Mr. Rogers for the pace that he takes. He's very, everyone knows he's very kind, but it's just amazing to see him pull apart little technical things and explain them. We were watching an episode where he was visiting a cake maker and they talked about the little instruments that they used to do the frosting and the piping on everything. It was pretty fantastic. I enjoyed that. So, anyways, I'm into the little things now. I think the little things are very interesting. So I think that this class today will hopefully reflect that. So what we are going to start off with today, though, is a little bit of stretching, because stretching is really, really, really important in poi, in dancing in general. And so I really want to help us get our bodies moving a little bit so we stay healthy and so we remember dynamics. Because remember, this is dance. We want to be dynamic. We want to explore different ranges, different ways of expressing, and to feel good in our bodies while we do it. So one of the first things that I want to get started, and I think you'll kind of get that this is a little bit of what we were doing last time, is just kind of bounce and let your knees go and feel like you're jumping rope a little bit. Just kind of, that's a movement that we end up doing a lot. Little circles, a little bit bigger as well. Don't have to go all the way to your back. You don't want to overstretch or anything, but kind of get those shoulders moving, get those knees moving, bounce a little bit, feel a little bit warm. So that's a really good kind of thing to do. And then also let your arms sway a little bit in front of you. Have them both move in the same direction. You can make little circles, you can make big circles. Remember your dynamics. You can be dramatic with what you're doing. Use your full body, use your legs. And then kind of start moving from your elbows a little bit. Maybe clap as your arms pass each other. Little small clap as you warm up your elbows, warm up your wrists. Feel what this feels like. And then make this a little bit bigger. And instead of clapping, bring yourself into a hug where one arm is above the other and back. In many ways, this is kind of like in yoga, setting up for your eagle arms. You can feel that. You can feel a lot of yoga in the things that we do with this movement. There's a lot of movement that crosses over. That's part of the cross training. I know that there are a lot of people who practice yoga. A lot of yoga instructors are going to be here as well. So hopefully using a few of these metaphors and kind of movement muscle memories will help you in what we are doing. And then that same movement, we had to stop because our body kind of gets in the way here. But that same movement is actually doing freestyle swimming. Do a little bit of freestyle. Do a little bit of backstroke swimming. All these warm-ups are really, really good for your shoulders, for your core, for your legs. Use your legs, move with the movement. Reverse and forward and reverse. And then actually, with using your legs, give a little bend, kind of like you're about to go into chair pose if I get far enough back. And then turn to one side with your arms open. And then I'm going to turn away from the camera. Bad TV. But turn off to the other side. And hug this way. And over this way. And just swimming your arms from one side to another with bent legs. Feel a suppleness in your body as you do this. And it's kind of like going into a chair pose with a twist to the side. And a twist to the side. And then try that rather than swimming as you cross. What if you put your hands up and then open your arms to the other side? And then down and open your arms to the other side. And stand up and go into your chair as you do this. And let your arms twist, your body turn. And feel that. And feel that all the way to your grounding. And do that in the other direction. Because we do everything in all directions, right? And then what we want to do from there is turn to this direction and reach up and gather all the energy down. Let it wash down. And reach up, use your legs, and gather down. Reach up to the sky and gather down. Then, rather than reaching up to the side, this is a little bit, or to the sky, do that same thing, but reach to the side and gather in. And reach to the side and carry in. Alternate your arms and carry in. Alternate your arms and carry in. And then start making that smaller and smaller. Bring it to your elbows. Bring it in. Bring it to your wrists. And let one go over the top and then the other. Let them change. Make sure to warm up your entire body. All right. So that is a preview of things to come. It's also really good just to warm up your body that way too. So a brief recap of things that we have recently been talking about, topics that will come back here and in other discussions as well, are things like momentum. We talked about, sorry, these are tangled. We talked about no momentum, which is a stall. We talked about periodic momentum, which is a pendulum, and the circle, which is consistent momentum. We also talked about planes. This is the wall plane, where everything is in front of you. I will turn to the side and let you see my wall plane is right in front of me like I'm facing a wall. And then wheel plane, where I am between two wheels, kind of like I'm in a wheelchair or a car, that's wheel plane. Floor plane, which is below you, kind of like you're stirring a pot. That's in the floor plane. We've got a ceiling fan, which is in the floor plane, or you could call it the ceiling plane if you wanted to, right? And then we talked a lot about poi relative to you versus poi relative to each other. So I'll use some descriptive terms that are not necessarily classes of moves. They're useful in the moment when we talk about forward and reverse and clockwise. That's counterclockwise. Clockwise, I guess that's counterclockwise to you. See, these break down. And counterclockwise to me, which is clockwise to you. And so these are you relative to the poi, and they're not classes of moves. What we're going to talk today with timing and direction, that starts bringing classes of moves, conceptual things that you can do that transcend what you are doing in the moment to overall motions that you can make. So you'll learn a little bit more about that. We talked about some basic turns last time using together time, same direction turns, where we drew a line on the floor and went from forward to reverse, or we drew a line on the ceiling and went from reverse to forward, right? We also talked about stopping the momentum of poi and restarting however you want. So you can either turn, which is a transition, or stop the poi and just restart however you want to. But the transitions are really great for flow. So are the stoppings, though. Those are like rests in music. So use them dynamically. Practice all timings and directions, all orientations, as many planes as physically possible. So today's lesson is timing and direction. And we want to have you, first off, put down the poi. I'm going to show you a little gallery of these things, describe them a little bit, and then we'll do them. Although, as you may have figured out in the warm-up, you were already doing them. So, together time, same direction. That's when we're doing the same time. The beats happen together. So you can count beats really from anywhere. Most of the time you end up counting them, from one of the cardinal directions, up, down, left, right. A lot of times on the ground, because gravity kind of helps you to emphasize that. You know when it's going up and when it's going down, because that gravity moment has a lot of momentum that you're working with. So together time, same direction means the beat is happening at the same point on the circle, boom, boom, at the same time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we're going the same direction, right? So you guys have together time, same direction down, because we were doing that, a lot of it last week. So this is kind of like, if you're in the wheel plane, it's like jumping rope. That's together time, same direction. If you are in the wall plane, it's like they chalked both your tires because you were parking, and the chalk lines up, and they are simply going like your tires are going, the together time, same direction. Split time, same direction is kind of like freestyle swimming, right? Whoops. That's the ceiling, right? Where your arms are at different points of the circle, but you're going the same direction. It's also backstroke, right? It's the same exact thing. Visually, it's going to kind of look like you have this line that is constantly, even though you have one poi right here, the other poi is going to create a line with the other. So visually, you've got a little bit of a line. Now, a couple things to remember. This looks almost like you've got, a paddle, in a boat, a long single oar. Visually, they look like a propeller when they line up. It is it's possible, but it's harder to line them up in front of your body. A lot of times you'll see people splitting their body when they're doing something like this. But because of your arms, that's why we were doing those eagle arm hugs a little bit, to let you know that that's a little more difficult, that you have physiology that are part of your concerns. And then often in the wall plane, you can put them next to each other. So it feels like they're about to strike. You can actually strike them if you want. You can also do little twists where they come together. We'll get into that in a couple of weeks. But they almost feel like they're striking together. They're going the opposite direction. And what ends up happening is their beats, when one is on the bottom, the other is on the top. So then together time, opposite direction, sometimes people shorten this and call it tag op, is when they cross each other at the top and the bottom, right? Or it looks, if your hands are separated, looks kind of like a pitching machine or a tennis ball machine, something that's going to kind of propel things out. And their beats are they're at the top and the bottom at the same time. If you put them together, this is called a butterfly, and you can see them crossing at the top and the bottom. So they're together time, but they're going opposite directions. They're two wheels kind of going against each other. Split time opposite direction, otherwise known as split op. Basically, that's kind of like double Dutch, okay? And that's when we were gathering from side to side. Remember that last warm-up we were doing? Because these cross at the sides. So if your timing is crossing at top and bottom, you're going together opposite. If your crossing is at the sides, you're going split opposite. So these are relative to each other, and timing and space kind of have a lot to do with each other. So let us visualize with our hands. Sometimes it can help to use fingers to point kind of as vectors. It's really great to break things down using your hands and your arms, and to break things down in 90-degree increments, because you can tell a lot about something, about this motion with. So they look different in different planes and also different in different sizes. So what we're doing here is the same thing as this, but they look very different. Remember, we were doing this before, and then this is the same momentum of the poi, but it feels very different. So you have to get different metaphors in, and they're different when you use different points of rotation. Remember that your body, as we were talking about a little bit last time, the planes are a little bit different. When you turn this way, your shoulders and elbows are off center in your plane. When you turn this way, they're literally in the exact same plane. So the points of rotation are going to have a lot of impact on this. So together same with just hands. Remember to keep your planes, and this is just like jumping rope. Split time, same direction, that's swimming freestyle, right? And also when you turn this way, this strikes in the middle because you've offset them. Or you could do this as well, although you don't necessarily get as much of the feel of the momentum that you will get. Then together time, opposite direction. That's the butterfly. That's the reach up and gather and do mountain pose and bring the energy down, and reach up and mountain and bring the energy down. That's the same thing over here, where we were, basically going into, we were going into a little bit of a chair pose and go to the side and reach both hands up and switch to the other side and down to the ground, right? So having these in your physical muscle memory and drilling them is really important. Then that split time, opposite direction, it's kind of like go from side to side and clap your hands on each side. Or feel like you're gathering in on each side. And bring it smaller and smaller so you can feel it with your arms. Do that double Dutch. So use those metaphors. They will really, really, really help you. And sometimes, I've been spinning for 20 years now and using this terminology probably for about 15 years now. Sometimes when I stop and think about it, I still have to really, really process. But when you start tapping into this muscle memory, it makes so much more sense. So pick up your poi. Finally, like 20 minutes in, we're picking up our poi, right? What you want to do is add your poi in slowly. Let them hang like you're doing a pendulum, or like you're transposing or sliding a stall. The poi itself is still in a kind of no momentum stall mode relative to your point of rotation. So it's not rotating it, but you can transpose or slide it. And we can break these down in different sorts of ways by doing this before adding momentum. So I'm really serious about adding these slowly, because sometimes you're going to be like, oh, I can do this, and not realize that, like with this, you're going to be tying yourself together, which is why I was like, eagle arm, eagle arm. All those stalls are really kind of nice here. Okay, so together same, you already know that. That is like jumping rope, like wheels in a car. You can already turn. You can go 90 degrees and turn. Remember, with your turns, you broke down everything by 90 degrees too, right? Because there's a lot you can do with stopping and keeping your momentum. Go to a safe space and keep the momentum going. Think about what you're going to do and go to the next space. So that same thing that we were doing with turning, breaking it down, we're going to do with this too. Okay, so you got the together same, split same, keep these dangling down, and just move and let them dangle. They're like little teardrop earrings. And then when you get up a little bit of momentum, you can start getting them to actually move. And you don't have to do it in full extension like I was doing. I was doing that so your arms kind of get it, but you can do them in smaller circles because you're inside, right? And then when we move to the wall plane, remember that you clapped your hands together here, and then just start getting that motion right here. Feel like they're gonna maybe tick together, even though they're not. If you tick together, it's gonna break your flow. But bring them close to each other and do that. And then we are going to do, so with your together opposite, spin up the sides and down the middle, or choose to go up the middle and down the sides, right? And just move your poi like this, and then you can slowly build energy into the poi, not just your hands, and let them trace where you were. Stop, and then just bring them from the outside in. This is together opposite, right? Don't overlap them yet. I'll show those to you at the very end. That's the butterfly. I'll show that to you for people that are interested at the very end. And also, you can do this in like we were talking about with bring them up and over, hug to one side, hands up, over, then start just bringing a little bit of energy into that. And it'll feel strange at first, and you're going to have to practice your planes, because you're going to want to go to one side or another, so don't go too fast, too quickly, and just do these motions over and over and practice your planes. And then the last one is split opposite. So one hand on top, one hand on the bottom, and both out to the side, top, bottom, out to the other side. Switch what's on the top and the bottom, then out to the side. Then slowly start building momentum and do it just like double dutch, right? And if you're doing that in the wheel plane, basically it's going to feel like forward and backward instead of top and bottom, right? So that one might be a little bit difficult to do right away. Practice them in I think in the wall plane at first, and really kind of get your motion going with that before you do that. Okay? Any questions? I'm seeing a lot of random likes. I don't know how the feed is doing today because I haven't seen a single comment, but I've seen a lot of random likes and stuff. So I know you guys can see this. A couple of, I guess I promised to show you butterfly. So I'll show you butterfly first, Be very careful with butterfly, okay? I'm going to show you with my hands first how to do this, right? So this is together time, opposite direction. So they're crossing on top and bottom. And bring your hands together at the top and at the bottom, right? And out to the side. Now you're gonna notice what's gonna end up happening is one hand kind of needs to always pass over the other. So the logistics of this, when you have poi, are you're gonna put one hand on top and slightly in front of the other. You know, kind of stack your hands like this. Not like this, not straight up and down, but tilted, forward a little bit. So, you know, they're kind of, your bottom hand is angled, and your top hand continues. And what's going to end up happening is you'll hold one poi, I'll shorten these up, one poi like this and one poi like this. So when they're passing each other, they have this little visual space between them. So what you want to do is you want to spin, let's do basically up the sides, down the middle first. Now do this very, very, very slowly. I bet people have already jumped ahead and are about to learn some of the physics that I'm going to talk about. If these tangle, the horizontal velocity is going to go to 0 and everything will go into the vertical velocity. If you are spinning this downward, it's going to hit you in the groin. If you're spinning these upward, it's going to tangle and hit you in the face. So be very, very careful. Do this slow, okay? So do this slow. Know which hand is going to go on top and slightly forward. And then just slowly start bringing them together. And if you slowly bring them together and leave them like that, make sure that you're respecting your planes, and you will be in a butterfly. Do it slowly. I hope that you have built soft poi as well. This is one of those things that's really, really rewarding and like, oh my gosh, I'm a legit spinner. Because this is one of those kind of magical moves when you first start. You can start doing for hours. Then you can, put them in the same hand, and I still screw that up. So anyways, pretty magical. A few practice tips before we go. Look at yourself in as many perspectives as possible. I know that's a little bit difficult when we are all at home, but there are a lot of different ways to process what we're doing. You can be in your mind and analyzing all this stuff and being like, okay, what are the technical aspects of this? And, is this in the right plane? Is this, what's happening? Here's the cookbook recipe. That's really important to understand that stuff. That's a lot of what we're doing right now. But also feel the analyzing through your body, through your musculature, through your skeletal structure, what physically feels good. And then you start getting more into flow, which is much more meditative, much more dance-oriented, and your body will give you that feedback. Dance in front of mirrors if you have them. That is one of the best practice techniques. You see what you're doing, you see where you're screwing up, you see your emotion, you see if you have this kind of deadened face when you're very serious and trying to figure it out, and it brings it out in you a little bit. Also, do it in front of cameras. It's very different when you're live in front of a mirror and can react to it versus when you watch a video of yourself later. You're not reacting and interacting. Dance in front of a small group of friends when you're able to be around a small group of friends, or if you're sheltering in place with someone, dance and talk, interact with them. And then when you can, dance in front of a large crowd. That is an energetic exchange. That is where the Full Moon Jam really changed me as a person and performer, was interacting with this mass energy that was wildly appreciative and wonderful. And then dance in front of people who are absolutely new to this, dance in front of experts, get tips, wow people. It is all amazing and wonderful to do everything. So that is this week. That is timing and direction. Hit me up with any questions that you have. I know that this can be a little bit in the brain, which is why I tried to bring in some yoga and different metaphors and a lot of dance into this. So we're going to start moving next week into different sorts of driving styles. So we combine driving styles with different timings and directions in different planes to kind of build the library of what's possible. So next week, we are going to talk about something that is really rewarding. They're compound circles called flowers. We'll do spin flowers, and then the week after we'll do anti-spin flowers, which are basically different combinations of spinning that happens that you honestly probably don't even need the first couple weeks to get into, but you'll need them to apply in advanced sort of ways. So anyways, they're really rewarding. They're wonderful. I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful week. We'll be right back here next Tuesday, 2 p.m. Central. Hit me up with your questions. Thank you all. Much love out to everyone. I'm going to go watch some Mr. Rogers with my 3-year-old. See you all later. Bye-bye.